Well, it's been another busy week in Alberta and Canadian politics. And joining us to break it all down is Western Standard Chief Editor Dave Naylor. Dave, good to have you with us. Where do you want to start? Yeah, where do you want to start?
Well, why don't we start with some good news, Paul? Ding dong, the witch is dead. Stephen Guilbeault, the former environment minister and probably one of the most hated men in Alberta after Justin Trudeau. This is a man who spent 10 years doing everything he could possibly do to keep Alberta energy in the ground. The oil tanker ban off the west coast, the No More Pipelines bill. He is or still is, I guess, a radical environmentalist. He's the guy that climbed onto the roof of Ralph Klein's house when his wife Colleen was there by herself, scaring the hell out of her. He's the guy who climbed the CN Tower, not climbed it or jumped out of it or whatever he did in a publicity stunt back in the day. And that led to that famous photo of him in the orange jumpsuit with his eyes psychopathic, glaring all over the place. So he has been a thorn in Alberta's side for a decade. He's resigning his seat as soon as the summer recess starts, which is just down the road. And he says he's going to continue his environmental work somewhere else. So my best guess is he's going to get a cushy job at the UN, or he's always cozy with the government of China. There might be something there for him.
Wow, China. Okay. And I know there's maybe a possibility. Could he do something with the NDP? You never know, or is that pretty much off the table, you think?
Well, I mean, the NDP leader could even be more radical than Guilbeault. The problem with possibly joining the NDP is they're just a rump party now. There's only half a dozen of them, and there's no chance of him ever gaining power through the NDP again. So I think that's probably off the table, and I think he's just still looking for a cushy job with a high UN salary and a nice house in New York City.
Well, we will see what happens there. I'm curious to see if any of the other, 14 MPs who were also voicing their concerns about the Prime Minister's direction on this whole gas and oil versus climate change scenario, will they potentially resign or do anything significant?
No, the one good thing I will say about Guilbeault is he stands by his principles, and he didn't like what the government was doing, so he's resigning. Now and he said he did sign the letter, so he's one of the 14. The other 13 didn't even have their names mentioned, right? They're not publicly known. So whether they have the intestinal fortitude to do what Guilbeault did remains to be seen. But so far as they haven't been identified, I kind of doubt they have the guts.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move to the referendum. Lots to talk about there, right? I mean, Prime Minister Mark Carney weighing in with some interesting comments on what a winning referendum might look like.
Yeah, well, our Ottawa reporter, Wally Tantam, asked him, and he asked him if 50% plus one is good enough. And Carney said no. Now it gets even more complicated, because what is a winning number? If Carney says it's not 50% plus one, is it 52%? Is it 55%? Is it 60%? The Clarity Act says there has to be a clear majority. But what that majority is remains to be seen, Paul. It's just adding to the confusion. We have a confusing question, a referendum to have a referendum. Now we have a confusing what the winning or losing level is. We've got court battle on one side with the nationalist question, and you got probably somebody's going to sue over this other question. So it's just a whole quagmire of uncertainty.
Well, the whole Clarity Act, frankly, is quite unclear, ironically. I mean, it is, right?
It is. You're very right.
So yeah, majority, a clear majority. That is so vague and subjective, you can make it be whatever you want it to be if you're in power, right? So it depends on who's in power. And frankly, I guess in one sense, it doesn't matter who's in power. Whoever's the Prime Minister at the time will not want Alberta to leave, period. So very unlikely that it's going to happen even if Alberta does vote with a clear majority. Let's say they get 55% plus. I think for most people, they'd go, well, duh, that's a clear majority, you'd think, right? But obviously not in the minds of, the Prime Minister and others.
No. And say a referendum eventually is successful. I mean, it doesn't mean we're going to wake up as a separate country overnight. What it will lead to is years and years and years of negotiations on how things are going to be working. So, chances of Alberta becoming an independent country while I'm still on the right side of the ground, I think is very, very unlikely.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It is unlikely, but the push is ongoing. Now, Forever Canadian leader Thomas Lukaszuk says the Alberta independence debate will hang over Alberta for at least 2 years if voters choose to pursue a binding referendum. His claim is that Premier Smith's legislation prevents her from holding a binding referendum in an election year, which is 2027, right? So, but on the other hand, Alberta independence advocate, constitutional lawyer as well, Keith Wilson, he says Lukaszuk is dead wrong. So who's right on this one?
I have no idea. Again, it just adds to the confusion, doesn't it, Paul? Mm-hmm. You got Lukaszuk, a former cabinet minister, not a dumb dude who says they can't hold a referendum until 2028. Keith Wilson, another intelligent lawyer, says, well, no, but they can, because the legislation says you can't hold citizen referenda in an election year. And Wilson is saying, well, if the government calls it, they can call it. So again, it's all in the quagmire of uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, they bring up the issue of the division that this has caused. And, it does remind me a little bit of, the COVID years, right? Wearing a mask or not getting wearing a mask, getting a vaccine or not getting a vaccine. I mean, people were upset at one another. And it was just bizarre. You'd have relatives angry with fellow relatives, neighbors angry at their neighbors because they saw it differently. I'm like, oh, people, please just get along. Just respect one another. If you see it differently, that's okay. I'm still going to be a good neighbor. So I hate that sort of thing. And we are seeing some of that with this independence debate right now. And I'm not sure how to fix that.
It's actually a good segue, because talking about Danielle Smith's leadership, all those COVID restrictions got Albertans extremely angry.
Yep.
And they decided at the grassroots level in the UCP that they were going to organize a vote to get Jason Kenney out. Mm-hmm. And they signed up enough ridings. I think there were 22 or 24 ridings went along with it, and they had to have a leadership vote because they'd accrued the right number of ridings. And Kenney only got about 52% of the vote, and obviously that's not good enough to continue as a leader, and he resigned immediately. So there is talk amongst the independence leaders, Jeff Rath and Mitch Sylvester, that hey, they want Smith out. Is there any chance? I mean, there's always a chance, but circumstances are different now, Paul. There is no COVID. There is no COVID vaccine. Generally, Smith is doing well in the polls. At the time, Jason Kenney wasn't, and there was a lot of people fearing for their jobs. So right now, you have no government MLAs who are fearing for their jobs, and that's what it would take to get the grassroots people going. To sign up and get a leadership review going. So I don't think that the appetite is there for that. Smith is scheduled for another leadership review after the next election. But of course, that's obviously too late for some of the independence people who, between you and I and your listeners, I think there's a couple of them that have delusions of grandeur.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I guess we'll find out. We'll wait and see what happens there. But yeah, I tend to agree because of these big picture, I think what the UCP would be concerned about is, do they have a significant lead over Nenshi and the NDP? And at this point, they do. So they're on the right track, politically speaking, as far as where they're headed currently. Even though there's many people who would disagree with this policy or that policy. So big picture, they're looking okay. Now, Dave, there was a huge business announcement in BC this week that had a lot of onlookers, kind of shaking their heads at what might have been. Do you want to comment on that?
Oh, indeed. The feds and the government of BC announced the opening of a huge LNG project, and they're going to be shipping their LNG to Germany.
Yeah.
Now, you remember a flashback a year or so ago when Prime Minister Trudeau, standing beside the German Chancellor at the time, who said there's no business case to ship liquid natural gas to Germany. Well, turns out there was, Prime Minister, a very good business case. In fact, it's such a good business case. The ships that they're going to be hauling the gas on are so large, a lot of them cannot fit through the Panama Canal. So they're going to have to sail all the way down and underneath South America and then come back up through the Atlantic into Germany. So, if only there had been an easier way, like perhaps a natural gas pipeline to the East Coast. Imagine the sailing times that would be, days sailing that would be cut off from that, and how much money they would save. But anyways, among the many, many things that Justin Trudeau has been proven wrong on, the fact that there's not a business case to sell natural gas to Germany is probably right up there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just silliness. It really is. Remains to be seen, I guess, as to, will there be potential roadblocks to this yet? Who knows? I mean, again, there's various parties. Again, First Nations have to be consulted on this as well. Is everybody on board with this? I mean, hopefully, but, and it's going to be, I think, about 5 years or so before they actually start shipping.
Yeah, the part of the ownership group is a local First Nation. But then, you've already got the hereditary chiefs will start coming out of the woodwork.
Oh, yeah.
Being paid for by U.S. money, and they'll jump up and down and raise a stink and threaten lawsuits. But, at least it's a start, Paul. At least we're seeing some energy infrastructure built. And it just gives that little more glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, there could be an Alberta pipeline in the offing, which would kill a lot of soft-core separatist feelings. Those would be people who would then definitely vote on the staying in Canada thing if we can get a pipeline deal done.
Well, and you do have to say, hats off to Carney in the sense that he's a smart politician, and I think he timed this fairly good as far as making some moves toward getting these exports going to Germany and so forth. It takes a lot of the wind out of the sails, I think, of those who are kind of sitting on the fence. So again, yeah, if I was a betting man, probably not going to see Alberta leaving Canada anytime soon. So
no, your money is safe there, Paul.
All right. Well, we're running out of time. Dave, appreciate your time as always.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here.